What would happen if humans were cold-blooded animals? As the most dominant species in the current version of Earth Online, humans don't seem to be getting nerfed anytime soon. But there are always people who aren't satisfied and want to give humans more abilities. For example, if we became cold-blooded animals and evolved the ability to hibernate, then we wouldn't have to go to work in the winter. How wonderful would that be? But in reality, for humans, hibernation isn't much of an ability at all. In fact, it's more of a burden. The metabolic rate of cold-blooded animals changes with the temperature of their environment. When winter comes and the temperature drops, the metabolic rate decreases. With a lower metabolic rate, you simply can't do those high-energy fun activities. You just don't have the ability to do them. If everyone had to hibernate in winter, society would come to a complete standstill. And if only some people hibernated, those who did would be out of touch with society for several months. In today's world, let alone a few months 7, if you don't go home for a few days, your home's Wi-Fi might end up being used by the neighbors. Moreover, cold-blooded animals' activities are strongly influenced by outside temperatures. For example, turtles and lizards, after eating, must find sun to warm up so they can... If humans were like that after every meal, men and women all sprawled out on rocks to sunbathe, how on earth would we ever dominate the planet? Cold-blooded animals can't keep a constant body temperature. Hibernation is necessary for them. Without it, they'll die. Take snakes, for example. Their ecological niche is strong, right? But that's only when the temperature is high. When it drops, they enter a half-dead state and hibernate. That's where the saying, snakes and rats in one nest, comes from. In summer, snakes enter rat holes to eat rats, and in winter, rats sneak into snake dens to gnaw on snakes. They eat each other. It's all very harmonious. Humans have a constant body temperature, so we can live normally in extreme environments, making us highly adaptable. Our constant body temperature depends on the balance between heat production and heat loss in our bodies. Heat production mainly depends on basal metabolism and muscle activity. In normal cells, each contains hundreds or thousands of mitochondria. They oxidize and break down organic matter to generate heat, like tiny boilers producing warmth. At rest, most heat comes from internal organs. When thinking, mainly the brain generates heat, and when running, it's primarily skeletal muscles. So if you try to run and think at the same time, you'll end up getting distracted and falling down. Heat dissipation mainly relies on the skin and sweat glands. The skin primarily radiates heat outward in the form of infrared rays, while the sweat glands are the most powerful water cooling system on Earth Online. Of course, urine and feces also carry away some heat. That's why you feel a chill when you pee in winter. The hypothalamus maintains the balance between heat production and dissipation. When temperature drops, cold receptors in your skin send signals to the central nervous system, and your cerebral cortex senses cold, reminding you to put on thermal underwear. As the body's temperature control center, the hypothalamus focuses on three things, urging the body to produce heat, and produce more heat. On one hand, it directs the thyroid gland to secrete thyroid hormone. These hormones can increase both the number and activity of mitochondria within cells, which is like installing more boilers and equipping them with blowers. It commands skeletal muscles to contract rhythmically, generating heat, shivering, while the hypothalamus signals the erector pili muscles to contract. The main function of the erector pili muscles is to make those dark and coarse things on top stand up. That's right, body hair, thereby reducing heat loss. And all of this is an innate passive ability of warm-blooded animals, not something you can consciously control. Of course, the drop in temperature during winter can have other effects as well. However, the hypothalamus can only regulate body temperature to a point. If the outside temperature drops too much for the control center to handle, the body loses heat and life is at risk. Then, the hypothalamus directs blood to the body's core, prioritizing vital organs to keep core temperature stable. By this time, it has already reached its limit. We often see in movies that people who are about to freeze to death suddenly feel very hot and start taking off their clothes. This happens because the hypothalamus has completely shut down, resulting in a false sensation of heat. All should care for their hypothalamus and avoid. When a girl treats you hot and cold, it torments your feelings, but when the external environment is hot and cold, it torments your hypothalamus.